there is something that you can do to build your collection beyond your wildest dreams that will cost you absolutely nothing, that I don't hear any collector talking about. And when I tell you what it is, you're going to say, what are you talking about, Wahoo? How in the world does this connect with comics? Well, if you just hang with me for a few minutes, I'll tell you why. And so what I am talking about is developing an exercise routine. And so again, you might be saying, an exercise routine? Hey, I'm here for comic content. What the heck are you talking about? Well, I'm here to tell you that the biggest obstacle to building your collection is not money, but it's time. Because given enough time, we can earn enough money, as long as we don't spend every single cent we make, to literally be able to afford any comic that we want. Now, of course, most of us are not going to have that much time, but for every year that we can add to our lives, we can buy more comics, more grails, upgrade the ones that we already have, and do lots of awesome things with our collection. And of course, the easiest free way that you can add time to your life is through an exercise routine. Now, of course, you can pay for a gym membership, but any of us can just go walking on our streets. Any of us can just do some body weight exercises. It costs you absolutely nothing, and it gives you more years that you can not only buy and collect comics, but enjoy the ones that you already have. In other words, there is a world where I will be able to afford a copy, and it will certainly be a low-grade copy, of my all-time grail, Detective Comics number 27, the first appearance of Batman. But it will probably take me getting into my 80s to be able to do that responsibly. And so if I cut out in my 60s or my 70s, there will never be a Detective Comics 27 that comes my way. And so I've got to do what I can to extend my life to get that book. And obviously there's lots of other important reasons to try to extend our lives. I want to grow up, play with my grandchildren, maybe see some great grandchildren. Obviously all of that's more important, but this video is just about collecting comics. And so I've got to make it to my 80s to get that Tech 27. But not only do I want to live long enough to get comics, but I want to live long enough to afford them. So let's take my number 2 grail, Amazing Fantasy number 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man. I think there's a world where maybe when I'm in my 60s that I could afford a low-grade copy of that, once again, responsibly. And if I pick it up when I'm 65, man, that's going to be a great year. But if I check out when I'm 66, I didn't really get much time to enjoy that. I came, I saw, I conquered, and then I got out of there. What I want to do is buy that AF-15 when I'm 65 and then live to 85, not only to buy that Tech 27, but also so for 20 years, I can look at what eventually will be a comic book room with a comic book wall someday. I know some of you want a comic book wall. Maybe one day when all the kids are out of the house, I can get that comic book wall and have that on my videos. Right now, it's not possible, but maybe when I get that AF-15, I will put up that comic book wall. The kids will be gone. I'll be able to celebrate. It'll be a big day. But I want to come in for the next 20 years looking at that every day. Wow, I did it. I got my grail. And then when I get that Tech, when I'm 27, when I'm 85, I want to be able to come in for maybe another 10 years. I'd love to live into my mid-90s. I had grandmas that lived into their 90s. I'm hoping that maybe I can get there. And a big part of that is keeping myself healthy. But not only will exercise extend my lifespan, but it'll also extend my health span. In other words, not only will it give me more years, but it will give me higher quality years, as exercise is the number one way to offset many of the effects of aging. For example, one of the greatest effects of aging, of course, is mental decline, which obviously is going to affect our ability to read, enjoy, critically think about comics, make YouTube videos, whatever it might be, I want to delay my mental decline as much as possible. And the best way to do that is through exercise. So that when I get my Tech 27, when I'm 85, not only do I buy it, but I can also get a facsimile edition alongside of it so that I can read that, because I'm sure I'm going to buy an already graded copy. Regardless of what you think about graded comic books, I'm not taking a chance of spending a bunch of money and ending up being restored, I'll tell you that. So I'm going to buy an already graded copy, and I'm not going to crack it out, but I'll buy me a nice facsimile edition. And I'll read that and be like, wow, that book on the wall, I own it, and this is the first Batman story. And that's going to be an awesome day if I live that long and if I'm able to still think well. Now, obviously, again, we don't have a crystal ball. We can't guarantee anything. I could exercise and have a heart attack tomorrow, right? We don't know the future. But we want to do what we can to increase the odds of us living longer and living in a more healthy way. Exercise is also the best way that you can fight off diabetes, which of course, one of the side effects of diabetes could eventually be blindness. Well, if you're blind, you're obviously not reading any comics. And so I, again, want to be 85 and able to read, able to see my comics that are on my comic wallet that I get when I'm 65. But it's not going to happen unless I take care of myself. Now, another way that exercise benefits the comic collector is because it builds a mindset that I think carries on to your collecting journey. So, for example, to have a regular exercise routine, you have to learn impulse control. There are a couple of sickos out there that just really enjoy running. That's not me. I have never enjoyed running just to run a day in my life. I like playing basketball, things like that. But just going out on a run, never would ever volunteer to do that. But I want to live long. I want to live healthy. I want to be able to play again with my grandchildren, all those types of things. And so I know, well, man, even though my impulse is just to watch something else on Netflix, I need to get my lazy butt up out of here and go for a jog or a quick walk or whatever it is, but I got to move my body. And impulse control will really help you build your comic collection. Because of course, one of the greatest impulses that we have is to spend money on things that we don't need or comic books that we might not really want. And every dollar I spend on some other comic book is $1 away that I'm from my Tech 27. Now, obviously, there's some moderation. I'm never going to buy a comic book until I get my Tech 27, right? I'm going to buy some along the way and all of that. But there's a lot that I've had to say no to because I realized, hey, this book's kind of cool, but it's not one that I really love. And so if I get it, it's getting in the way of ones that I do love. And so I'm just not going to buy it. Or I'm not going to buy this extra cup of coffee at Starbucks or whatever it might be. I'm going to control these impulses. In comics, I'm going to control another thing, FOMO. I hear everybody talking about this book, and so I feel like, oh man, I need to get that book too. I can control my FOMO. And that mindset to be able to do that, I think, is built up by exercise. And obviously other things can do that as well, but I think exercise really helps to do that. And I think exercise also helps us to build long-term thinking, which is important in being able to get your comic grails. One of the things that inspired me to make this video is a book that I read earlier this year, Outlive by Peter Attia. I'm getting closer and closer to being in my 50s. I'm 46 right now. And so this is about longevity and something I'm really starting to think about. Not again simply lifespan, but especially also health span. Because medicine has increased a lot to where making it to my 70s, 80s is likely unless there's an accident. But maybe living pumped up full of drugs and just bedridden. My hope is it's not like that. My hope is that I'm in my 80s and I'm able to get up and walk around so I can get down to that comic room and look at that Tech 27 and play with my grandkids and say, look what your grandpa got. And they're going to say, well, Grandpa, why don't you spend any of that money on us? And I'll say, don't worry, your dad is going to sell this one day and then he'll take care of you. But for now, Look at what your grandpa did. I got a Tech 27. Only a few people in the world have this, son. And your grandpa is one of them. I digress. But something Peter Attia talks about is that basically once you reach your 40s, you're going to be at 75% of what you are now 20 years from now. And that number is just going to keep going down. And so if I want to be anywhere close to how I feel now, well, I've got to elevate my health now, right? Like I feel like I'm in pretty good health now. I'm able to walk around, do the things that I want to do. But if I want to be able to walk around in my 60s and certainly in my 80s, well, there are decisions that I have to make now to get there. I can't get to my 60s and then be like, oh, I mean, you always can improve, right? But if I wait to my 60s, and if you're in your 60s, there's always time to get better, but it's going to be harder, obviously. Now is the time, I realize, to start making the decisions to get healthy. And one of the reasons that also I started doing that this year especially, I've always been interested in health, but I kind of had a renewal this year after kind of coming out of the COVID years where, couldn't go to a gym or anything like that. My fitness had went down, quite a bit from where it had been. But this year, I went on this big backpacking hike with my kids in Iceland for 40 miles over 3 days through these crazy mountains. And I knew leading up to it that, man, I got to get my butt in better shape. And so I did. And I'm continuing to do that because I saw what it helped me to do in Iceland. That was a real, obviously, self-esteem booster. And I want to be able to do that type of stuff. We'll see if I'm 60 in Iceland. I don't know. Maybe. But I want to be able to do a lot of things for a long time. And that includes collecting, reading, enjoying my comic collection. And that's just going to take keeping myself in good shape. And when it comes to comic collecting, I think too few collectors set long-term goals. And you just kind of hope, oh man, it'd be great one day to have an Amazing Fantasy 15. And there's a handful of people that have the type of jobs where, just 1 year they can decide to do that. But of course, most of us can't do that. And so if you want an Amazing Fantasy 15, you've probably got to start planning for that now. At least someone like me has to do that. And that's what I'm trying to do. Set aside a little bit of money. I'm in no rush. But one day, I think, again, if I live to my 60s, that's a goal that is really attainable for me. And exercise helps to build that long-term mindset. Now, another thing that exercise does is that it produces dopamine, which is a hormone that makes you feel good, which also benefits the collector because in general, if you exercise, you've got a lot of dopamine flowing, you're just going to feel better about everything in your life, and that goes to your collection. Something that we can get frustrated about is like thinking, oh, my collection's no good, or get depressed, or see some influencers on YouTube and think, oh, I got a bunch of scrubby books here. But when we got the dopamine flowing, we're just going to be a lot more happy about whatever it is that we have. And it will also, again, help control our impulse buying. A lot of times we impulse buy. It's called retail therapy. I found out today, I was asking my wife, we were having this conversation. It's called retail therapy, where we're feeling bad about something. And so we buy something, because when we buy something, we get that dopamine hit. And then we feel good about it until the dopamine wears off. Then we go buy something else. And there's this vicious cycle that just involves spending and spending and spending. Well, if we're getting those dopamine hits from something else, namely exercise, then we don't need to, again, go out and impulse buy, and we can start saving money so that we can put away for whatever grail it is. And obviously, we're all going to have different things, and whatever is realistic for you is going to be different from me, and whatever is realistic for me is going to be different from you. But one thing is for certain for all of us: the longer we live, the better our collection will be, and the more that we can enjoy it. Do you agree? Disagree? What are your thoughts? What types of exercise do you like? For most of my life, I lifted weights as my primary mode of exercise. But in the last, especially year getting ready for this Iceland hike, I've taken to running. Even though I hate it, it feels good. I feel cleansed. I've lost about 25 pounds this year. And so, it just feels good to be able to be outside, run around with the kids, and not get winded as much. And so I'm going to keep that up, I think. And I'm still doing a little bit of weight training. But really, at this stage of my life, when I was in my 20s, yeah, like a lot of people, I just wanted to be big and bulky and just be massive, and people afraid of me when I walk down the streets. Now that I'm getting a little older, I just want to be able to, not get winded with everything that I do. I'm thankful that this year especially I've been able to get to that point. And I'm thankful for Peter Attia really encouraging me, and hopefully I've encouraged you. So like, comment, subscribe. Thank you.